Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet, powered by Phantom Wire. I am Andy Signor. Now, this is a crazy story, and you must take it with a huge, huge grain of salt. But the only reason I'm even reporting this is because it's interesting, and it also, something's happening. Something is happening, so while I don't want to give too much credence to these reports because they're going so crazy in the direction, it is odd. Something is going to happen here over at DC Comics. Something has already happened. And as I read about it, I thought, you know what, let's make sure everybody is in the loop on what's going on. But the big headline, Marvel Comics rumored to take over DC Comics. Now, this just seems like crazy, stupid clickbait, correct? And in a way, I still think it is. But when you really break down what's happening, it's all due to the firing of Dan DiDio, who did it was a publisher over at DC Comics, a big guy in charge. And it was yesterday. It was reported by Bleeding Cool that he was just fired. No one really knew what happened, but it was Bleeding Cool who confirmed that he's no longer publisher of DC Comics. He's gone from the company, and whatever happened fast. There was a lot of rumors. He has stood by a long time, sticking around DC Comics, but as now sort of a day has passed and two, we're starting to figure out what actually happened. And for those who aren't in the know, he was actually working on a new DC Comics. For those who don't read the comics, I didn't keep as much of this, but he was working on something called 5G. It was a big sort of new Flashpoint type of plan that DC was planning. And as I sort of have gone to sort of really familiarize what it was sort of a way for them to go back and adjust their timelines. So basically the crux of 5G is that the characters like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman would cede their mantles to replacements, some of which would be surprising. Batman, for example, would be replaced by Luke Fox rather than a Robin or Batgirl or an Orphan. This has been confirmed by several sites and everything that was sort of the plan, that they would see another crisis, setting things up, and basically allowing these characters to die and then having other ones come in. They wouldn't just keep moving on. And the way that they would sort of justify this was by setting up these new generations. So basically, Generation 0 would be the event sort of sets it up. And then we had Generation 1, which they're going to readjust. So Wonder Woman was the first superhero during World War I. Well, that's happens. And then Generation 2 is then the first appearance of Superman, what happened there. And then Generation 3 is everything from Crisis on Infinite Earths in the 80s to Flashpoint. And then Generation 4 is sort of the current era we live in. And then Generation 5, where the Legion of Superheroes adventure would take place. And sort of cementing the timeline for some of these, Clark Kent, Bruce Waynes, to let them be done and then move in new people. It was sort of this big idea that apparently DiDio was overseeing, but he was not. It was not going over with everybody, including Scott Snyder, who did Batman Death Metal. He was like, no, you're not. I don't want this. 5G can't do anything to do with what I'm working on. This is stupid. And their tussle back and forth was one of the ultimate things everyone's reporting as to why he left. And so now Jim Lee, Batman publisher and a lot of comics, is now sort of the sole individual calling shots over at DC. Scott Snyder, who is another big comics personality, has now tried today sort of save and face. Dan DiDio is one of the most passionate people I know when it comes to this medium. He loves comics with every fiber. He was also an early champion of my work. He backed me on my Black Mirror when others didn't want it to happen. And that then on Court of Owls, American Vampire, on and on. We did have some nuclear fights over the years, but sure, above all, after a decade working with him, all I feel is gratitude to Dan for his support and friendship. DC will be different without him. See, it's nice. Even when you don't get along, you still stay loyal and you say something nice about the work that you did do. Take notes, people. But anyway, this is big news because they were going to oversee sort of this new aging out of the heroes that we know and love. And now all of this speculation and this very fast exit of Dan DiDio from DC has now created these rumors. With AT&T owning and firing, there was reports before this that said if this 5G event didn't work, AT&T was going to be like, done with the comics. Why are we wasting time with these comics? They're not selling anymore. No one's buying them. Just get rid of it. And that's now where the talk of, well, what if Marvel bought them? Because apparently they're doing that better now. And Kevin Feige's overseeing even the publishing arm. This would give him even more control. Now, what's funny to me is it's like, everybody just gives Kevin Feige everything now. Oh, he's got Star Wars, he got this, dude can't do it all. He cannot do it all. And I don't believe he's going to get this. No way AT&T, Warner Brothers would be that silly to grant over why? Why would you do that? There's too much money to be made in the movies and everything else. It's not going to happen. So I don't buy this article. I don't buy this story. But of course, it's fun to speculate. Could we get another amalgam? There was actually, Jeff Johns had teased a crossover was in the works with DC Marvel in the comics. They were alluding that something was coming. Who knows? That's where that's the only reason I'm reporting on this, because stranger things have happened, right? I think this is crazy if it does. It said that so now we're getting into speculation from Cosmic Book News, because it's like a typo. Cosmic Book News is really well because you misspell comic book movies news, and then you get in here. But anyway, they have this story, so let's, again, take this as you will. It said that Dan DiDio butted heads with Batman writer Scott Snyder over this 5G reboot we just talked about, and Snyder didn't want his comics involved with the event, which caused problems at DC. So Friday saw DiDio called into AT&T Warner Brothers office, where he's fired and let go from DC Comics, which saw DiDio exit the grounds immediately. It's claimed that AT&T doesn't want to do the 5G reboot as they have too much at stake with the classic characters involved with the movies and television shows and various merchandise products, divisions which do make money, as DC Comics sales have been rather poor. It said AT&T is considering using Hollywood movie and TV writers on the DC Comics, writers who already have a proven track record instead of comic book writers. An example would be James Gunn writing a comic book after directing Suicide Squad, Greg Berlanti returning to write for comics since he did Arrowverse, and now J.J. Abrams with Warner Media. He could start writing comics just as he did with his son for that Spider-Man comic they did, which was a big success, Marvel said. So having the new 5G comic book characters such as Black Batman wouldn't fit with the Robert Pattinson Batman on the big screen, and all the other marketing promotionals involve toys, etc. I'll also add that Marvel Comics tried a similar approach with their Marvel Now event that saw classic characters replaced, and that failed miserably. So it's claimed. So all this makes sense. Why would you get rid of Bruce Wayne and these people that people know and love? It's silly. Why not have us just make another, new version, new timeline, new things? That's what's been happening, to wipe them out completely. That never sticks in comics. Remember when the death of Superman? Yeah, I do too. He's never died. I guess he died, but he's never really died, right? But now, as they're trying to contemplate and getting out of the publishing business, AT&T doesn't want to do it. They're considering farming DC out, possibly to Marvel. Note, this other influencer said AT&T will close down DC Comics if 5G fails. It said that AT&T doesn't want to sell DC Comics because they see the value in the various intellectual properties. Duh. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, a lot of profit in this stuff. This Lord of Long's box YouTube did make a good point that this is probably rumor. I think that this is a good take, and I agree. This is probably sort of a thing to float out there to sort of get bidders and to see. But I don't know. It's like, if you really are going to sell the publishing arm and say, you know what, we don't care, but we got to give them skin in the game, because there's no real money in the publishing. It's more in the rights, the everything else. So. The thought here, though, is this could be thrown out there in order to get the fan reaction. Instead, no DC Comics published. Wouldn't that be better for Marvel to take over and publish DC Comics and characters? This could then obviously bring characters in through the multiverse. Obviously, everyone speculates, just like Sony's doing now with their own properties. Look, I don't buy any of this. But as I said, Jeff Johns teased this DC Marvel crossover in the last issue of Doomsday Clock. Perhaps Johns' Doomsday Clock was also counting down to the doom of DC. This was the sort of moment that they were talking about that was mentioned in or the crossover was brought up. Where was it? This was in a Jeff Johns comic. Where did it go? Here it goes. It's January 2026. The timeline is restored, and Earth 50 is born. It is June 17, 2016. Superman goes on a quest to find Bruce Wayne's lost daughter so she can save Bruce's son. On July 10th, the Secret Crisis begins, throwing Superman into a brawl across the universe with Thor himself and a green behemoth stronger than even Doomsday, who dies protecting Superman from these invaders. In its wake, Superman's timeline shifts forward again. So there's a mention of Thor and Hulk. Because Thor is like a Greek god. I'm sure you can get away with saying Thor, but interesting, right? So there have been teases of this. And so, look, DC and Marvel have crossed over before. When Marvel and DC were not selling at all, there were a lot of options on the table. And there was one version where Michael Jackson was going to buy Spider-Man. Dude, this has been going on for a long time. Comics has always ebbed and flowed, gone up and down in their pricing of what they can say. And now Marvel is winning because of their properties that they've done really well on. Their merchandising, their MCU, it's put them on the map tremendously. And Marvel Comics are performing better than DC Comics, so it seems from my research. But that doesn't mean they can't rebound back, and that the ancillary other markets of movies, TV shows, etc., aren't making Warner Brothers a ton of money. AT&T, a ton of money. So why would you sell it? Why would Marvel take it? Is the other thing of like, if they can't have the movie rights and get a piece of that pie, why would they do it? That doesn't make any sense. I would just buy it and not release it. And then suddenly you have more market for your own comics. I don't see the benefit of giving it to Marvel, because unless you're giving them full control, which why would Warner Brothers do that? They're doing the Green Lantern TV show. They got so much in the pipeline that makes no sense that they would just give them. And then why would Marvel take the comic book rights and not have? Why would they spend that energy and then not? I guess you could do cool crossovers with Batman and Iron Man and sell if you had it that way. Suddenly the publishing would be interesting again. But then why not just make a deal? Like, fine, let's use each other's characters to make another stunt to get DC back and going. I don't see the value in that. DC would be silly to give up that big intellectual property, even just the publishing. I understand if they want to get out of publishing, but hello, the way they're now comic apps and everything, like, it's not even just about print media anymore. It's about motion comics. DC does such a good job with their animated films. Again, this seems silly. I don't think they're going to sell to Marvel. I think that sites of this are just jumping into it. And look, I clickbaited a bit, I guess, in my title as well. But it is a fair conversation, because if the publishing arm's dying and DC's floundering, Marvel's not, why not sort of see a similar approach that Sony's doing? Hey, want to do a bigger crossover? Want to figure out ways for us to at least cross paths in the publishing end, see what can happen? That only means better profits for both companies, right? So in that regard, maybe. But I don't see how the economics work for DC to sell to Marvel. I just don't see that happening. And plus, I don't know if Disney would do it. I mean, I guess they would. They want as much as they can on Disney Plus. They want to own as many IPs as they can. Having Batman, though, isn't really Disney, right? It's like, it doesn't feel very Disney. They don't have that sort of dark thing. But who knows? What do you guys think? Is there any possibility, any alternate multiverse that you can think of where this could actually happen? That said, what do you think is happening over in DC? This firing is a pretty big deal. Jim Lee in charge is, I don't know who's in charge over there. Who's doing what? What happens? Does this mean the 5G thing is over? There's going to be a lot reporting on this. So that way, if you see this in the news, now you have a little quick of an update to understand what's happening in the comic industry right now and what's happening, because this will affect DC's, obviously, books moving forward. That's all I got for you right now, though. Hit me up on social media if you got any insight on this. I'm always looking for more comic experts, because I try my best, but I don't read as many. If you got some comics expertise, you want to help be a person on the channel, drop me a line. Hit me up. And make sure to subscribe. Also, go subscribe to my Hugging the Cactus YouTube channel. Go to Hugging the Cactus on YouTube. I'll put the link down below. Actually, I'll put a little cactus here. Go subscribe over there. I'm going to be doing my new show that I've been teasing for the longest time over there. I need to get 1,000 subscribers to make that channel fully activated. And I'll be posting some streams and stuff. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching. Got so much more content on the way, and we'll be with you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.